Welcome, everybody, to the Loud and Drunk podcast. This is Dan. Life at the Jersey Shore, you kind of expect some things, but some things you don't expect is that tourist season goes somewhat viral. And so what happened over Memorial Day weekend, which is the official beginning of the tourist season, or if you know, Benny season, a whole bunch of shore towns had a little bit of a kerfuffle during this weekend. And Twitter blew up all about it. The governor made a response of it. And apparently people did not realize this entire country did not realize that crime happens at the Jersey Shore.
The crime!
Justin, what will become of us?
Oh, Dan, I surely don't know. I mean, I've known this my entire life. However, it is quite funny that we have made big time news with our shore towns and their unique intricacies thereof.
People are seeing us.
Moses, do you have anything you would like to declare?
It's the kids nowadays. They're not into the GTL, the gym tan laundry.
Oh.
And now they're just like, let's drink. And that's not a way to live. Like, I live that way, but that's not how people should live.
I'm Hardy Vu Wallbanger. Very happy to be here.
I love your drink.
What's that?
I love your drink.
Oh, I didn't know that I had one. Regardless, I've been living here my entire life. I've lived in a few different, I guess what you could call shore communities. It's, I don't know, the crime is just insane. It's just all over the place. And it only happened this year and it never happened before. It's very unique to this very particular time period. And I'm happy that we're talking about it.
All right, but before we get started, I want to make a little bit of a call to all of you out there that are listening to us right now. YouTube officially hates us. So what you're going to have to do out there, if you like this podcast, you support this podcast, you can still subscribe on YouTube, but make sure that you have a backup plan like Spotify, Apple, Rumble. If you don't know what Rumble is, I completely understand. Make an account. Just if you want to listen to the podcast, but have a visual medium of some kind with it. But if you are subscribing to us on YouTube, make sure that you hit the notification bell because do not rely on YouTube to tell you that our content is out there because, they really enjoy us.
Yeah. The podcast keeps getting in trouble.
Are we at the 2-minute mark where I can start cursing?
What is it? I'm sorry?
Are we at the 2-minute mark where I can start cursing?
Well, apparently you can't curse at all.
Oh.
Apparently.
Well, fuck you, YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. YouTube is not our home.
No.
It's there for your convenience, but it does us no benefit.
It's interesting how that works. Sad in a way.
You know what's also sad, guys?
What's that?
Over the course of Memorial Day weekend, we had 3 incidents that kind of made headline news.
I heard.
We had Wildwood, of all places,
Mind the tram car.
Really?
had a state of emergency declared with just like these goddamn no good punk teens.
Yeah.
And
They're not punk. They're just teens.
Then a 15-year-old, and there is an update to the story that the kid is going to be just fine.
Well, that's good.
But a 15-year-old was stabbed in Ocean City.
Ocean City, yep.
Probably deserved it.
And then Seaside Heights,
Probably.
there was reports of gunshots, which was later debunked.
Right.
But
It
if
was just a car.
you look at the videos, you see all of the like massive amounts of crowds. And for us, that's like, it's Memorial Day weekend.
It wasn't much different than any other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, though, is Twitter went ablaze with all of these accounts saying like, oh, yeah, I remember being down at the Jersey Shore. It was never like that. And I'm like, did
Liar.
you live here in 1932?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these people who are saying, like, I know what this is, have no actual concept of
Yeah,
what's
they've never been
going
here.
on.
Yeah.
They've never been
it's-
here.
It's always been this way.
As a quick interstitial, this is something I've noticed. There are like, as you know, online groups. Say if you go on the Facebook or any of that shit, they're on these groups. So like, oh, this town back in the day, this town back in the day, and that's all it is. I see a bunch of the local ones, especially the shore towns, as I do live in close proximity to these towns, and it's just a bunch of white hair, well, probably actually purple-haired old ladies talking about how I remember when it was all blueberry farms and cranberry bogs.
This used to be all orange bogs.
That's Rich Farms remembers.
this used to be a boardwalk meadow as far as the eye could see.
It's such a sin. All these people are going to hell.
They
Yeah,
probably
it's
are,
crazy.
though. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, that's fair.
So a lot of these videos that went viral on Twitter were accompanied by certain messages because all of the public statements by like Wildwood, Seaside Heights, all that were just labeling it as a large amount of unsupervised teenagers. And so most of these people, in their infinite racism, used, in quotes, teens.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how we're getting around it now.
And this, that's code for, I guess, black kids.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous because, first of all, if you've ever been down to this area, I'm sorry that crime has been a stranglehold for Italians for so many fucking years. But that is the one thing, like, the thing that really bothers me about this whole it going viral on Twitter is that the main exports of Philadelphia, North New Jersey, and New York is traffic, fights, and crime.
Yeah.
We've known this.
Yeah.
Because we've lived here.
We grew up in it.
And now people who have not spent enough time at the Jersey Shore or pretty much know it from an MTV show are like, oh, how could this have happened?
I feel like it's like, and I love like this euphemism of like it being teens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and we obviously mean people who are darker than like ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel like the nuance of it is that like these people were leaving whatever areas they came from, which is like urban areas that surround these major cities that basically surround this general area. And they come here and bring with them all of the things that they are used to.
Yeah.
And then they get here and they're upset about what they've brought.
Yeah.
And then want to do exactly what they did up there, which is blame it on a minority group. It's you. You're the person doing.
Here's kind of the brass tacks of it. So, like, we grew up in a coastal area. Like, none of us live on the ocean, but we're all within, like, 5 minutes of the ocean. Living in these actual coastal towns, let's say Point Pleasant, Seaside, all the way down through the bottom of Ocean County, down to, like, LBI and stuff like that. If you can afford a house there, you're fucking old and white.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Also Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you're talking about something like LBI, you're looking at houses that basically, like at the
Millions.
brass minimum, it's millions of dollars.
Right. Right.
Like it's crazy expensive to live in New
Even if
Jersey,
you're not on the
period.
ocean, even if you're 4 blocks in, your house is still $800,000 minimum.
Yeah.
Unless it's,
insane.
and a lot of them are old legacy bullshit, blah, 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 whatever. But like, that's the nature of the people that live. I mean, there are year-round residents, and there's a difference between summer residents, because most in the off-season, most houses are vacant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
However,
That's how I got into robbery.
it's always the same fucking thing. This is nothing new. Once Memorial Day weekend, it's the influx. Any of us that live around here, we know it. It's when summer's here, if you will, and now everything is inaccessible.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I personally, as you guys know, like even where this is being recorded, where it's like I live at the very southern end of this bullshit.
You do.
And it's still like so much to deal with. Like I try not to leave my house on the weekends and what have you. It's just a shit ton of fucking traffic.
Well, it used to be Friday, Saturday. Now it's Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
Saturday.
exactly. Because
'Cause
everybody's
everybody
trying to
wants
like
to
beat
beat
the
it,
clock,
but
basically. Yeah.
They're just prolonging it.
Yeah. Because the bottom line is the volume of people who are coming southbound.
Too many people
Or-
in this world.
Yeah,
Let's start killing them.
What can we do about that?
We
That's
kill them.
Malthusianism.
Kill
my
them.
friend.
Now you're
Yeah.
definitely breaking some community guidelines,
Yeah.
Mose.
All right. Let's unalive them. I'm sorry.
But all right,
Oh,
so
I like that euphemism.
let's tack back
That
to
annoys
like
the fuck
these
out of me.
articles that
Yeah.
went out. It's you have giant influxes. We live, let's call it what it is, a tourist destination.
Yeah. Essentially, Philadelphia, New York, and northern New Jersey come down to the Jersey Shore,
They want to go to the
Yeah.
ocean. It's a cool
Every
place
time-
to be. Yeah, I get it.
and they don't want to go all the way to Myrtle Beach.
No, exactly right.
Yeah. Have you seen flight prices? It's expensive.
I mean, the only time, like, for us year-rounders, that, like, it's comfortable to go to the boardwalk is, like, January.
Yeah. When nothing is open
Yeah.
and there's nothing to do except, I guess, look at the water.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's all
what
you can do is
yeah.
look at it. Because God forbid you step on that beach. It has the opposite effect where in the summer it burns your feet. This just freezes your feet.
Yeah.
But, and this is nothing new. I know Wildwood. I've been down there. I know Wildwood is a place where a bunch of bikers go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like a biker spot.
Yeah. I grew up at the quote-unquote Jersey Shore. My interpretation, like, I've been to Wildwood a handful of times, but, like, living within a 5-mile proximity of the ocean, I never felt a need. I went down there for, like, school shit and stuff when I was younger. Wildwood has the stigma of, like, that's where they have all these, like, biker parades and
Yeah.
a bunch of biker bars and stuff like that. Oh, no crime happened then?
No.
Amazing. Seaside.
Otherwise known as Sleeside to
Sleeside,
everyone
yes.
who knows.
I mean, put into the world sphere by, what was it, Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, was partial truth and partial, what.
It was like that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like that show Jersey Shore
Yeah.
was people from New York who were going
Yeah, New York,
down to
Staten
New
Island.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Most
I
of
think only
those, so
one of
it's
them
like-
was actually from
Yeah,
Jersey.
you know, so it's like on the one hand, like people from Jersey are pieces of shit, so that's like valid.
Oh, we take
But at
that.
the-
We take that.
Yeah,
gladly.
It's a badge of
exactly.
honor.
But at the
Yeah.
same
It is.
time, like these people who were on that show that claimed to represent New Jersey, they were New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And they're, I would, in my opinion, far worse than any New Jerseyan that I've ever met. You
No,
know?
MTV
And I have a
pro-
pretty low opinion going into it.
MTV probably edited that, so they're even worse than
No,
they
of
actually
course,
were. But
of course, they want it to be as salacious as possible. That's the nature of TV, you know. And it's I mean, that is all that's on there. That's true to an extent, but it's a much more aggrandized version.
Yeah.
It's blown up to be salacious, but the kernel of truth is still there. It's obnoxious. It's a tourist destination, like I said. People come down, and when you go on vacation, what do? You let loose, and you be a little bit of a fucking fool.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
People cutting loose.
But these people on Twitter, I don't want to necessarily equate them with the right, but they seemed like they were on
I mean,
the right.
yeah.
It's just like they were trying to use this as an example of like, oh, this is Joe Biden's America, or this is Phil Murphy's New Jersey. And I'm like, motherfucker,
yeah,
I
this
have
is just America.
I have lived in this area practically all of my life, except for like a few years when I was on a boat somewhere or going to school. And I know for a fucking fact that this is like, as sure as the tide rolls in,
Yeah.
the crime rolls in
Well,
from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Call it what it is. Biden's America. Fucking whatever. It's Biden. It was Trump. It was fucking Obama.
Yeah.
It was fucking everybody down the line. Republican,
Yeah.
fucking Democrat. It doesn't matter. In this state, that's ever been fucking governor has been fucking corrupt. Captain Chiclet Teeth, his bills still due. Don't worry, he'll pay. But like,
For the
doesn't
listeners,
matter.
that's Murphy. If
Oh
you
yeah,
take
sorry.
a good look at him.
Yeah. Just look at a picture. You'll
He's
get
got
it.
some like horse teeth, and it's like a thing that before this podcast started, we were having a deep discussion about the nuances of
gum teeth ratio.
gum to teeth ratio.
Yeah.
It's not a good one.
It's I'm sorry, I said Biden.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah. I mean, this is
Murphy.
great.
Biden
Yeah,
doesn't have his teeth
Murphy's
anymore.
got it pretty bad. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess he had something to say about this, which was hilarious, but also like he also has this like Further Shore initiative thing going on.
Since you brought that up, Justin,
Yeah.
from NewJersey.com, I was trying to find his tweet, but I think he deleted it.
I think he did. I couldn't find it myself.
Yeah. Governor downplays reports of chaotic Memorial Day weekend at the Jersey Shore. So let me find the quote real quick. The reason I really wanted to talk about this is because we're being gaslit by these right-wingers on Twitter saying that this is unique.
Right.
And then this is essentially the left gaslighting us.
Yeah.
The Shore did not have a chaotic weekend. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In
awesome.
in defense, it wasn't. It's just how the weekends go.
Well,
it
honestly,
wasn't
just,
chaotic. It wasn't more like it's always going to be chaotic. The only reason I go to the
hearing
fucking
that,
shore.
just hearing that sutured up my knife wound, and I feel so much better. I was bleeding out.
Oh,
up
you're
until
the
that
one. I
moment.
gotcha.
You're like that
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I didn't want to
shitty
treat
movies.
it.
He was trying to walk this really, this is why I can't stand politicians, trying to walk this line between, oh, nothing bad happened, but there were also 3 very serious incidents, but this was overwhelmingly a huge Memorial Day. Well, yeah, of course, because if you look at the videos, the freaking boardwalk was packed. You have people
It's
all
shoulder
running
to
around.
shoulder.
It was pure chaos. If you look at
Yeah.
these videos, you could see it. It's pure chaos every summer.
Yeah.
Don't gaslight us and tell us it wasn't
that's what it
chaotic.
is. If you get 500,000 people together, like I mean, it sounds fucking like callous as shit, but like some people are gonna get knifed. Like, what fantasy world are we living in where everybody gets along?
But it's always chaotic, so that's kind of the norm. So
Yeah.
to say it's chaotic, it's not. It's just normal.
And that's also why people do these things. Like part of the reason I don't want to encourage it, but like part of the reason that people like go to vacation destinations is because they want to like avoid being in their own personal neighborhood where they actually have to deal with the consequences of their actions.
There is something to it. Going to another place, if you have a certain mindset, you get to blow off all the steam.
Yeah.
And also, like, consequences be damned.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's
I'm
happening.
on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I want. I
Yeah.
want to get fucking reckless.
Yeah.
That's how I live my life.
it is.
absolutely
Every
is.
day is a vacation day.
Yeah, but you mostly put in naps.
Well, I do nap a lot.
Yeah.
And the thing,
Like wakes up for this podcast.
the thing that really drove me nuts too is because after he had said this, Seaside Heights, in essentially the best possible way to completely contradict old Chiclet Teeth, Seaside Heights had put in a curfew officially for, I think, anybody that was below 21. I can look at this.
I don't know.
quick.
It was either 21 or 18.
Yeah.
I was talking to Christina about it, but I can't remember what it
Such
actually
bullshit.
is.
I would
So-
imagine 18, just because they have a lot of
Well, because
underage
all right,
clubs.
it kind
or
of
like not underage
if
clubs,
it is
but like
18,
whatever
it kind of leads into that teen quote unquote
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't distinctly remember, but it might have been 18.
I used to love that about Bamboo because it was just like, oh, girls 18 to party, but 21 to drink.
Yeah,
it's
all
like,
right,
all
do
We
you
know
know
how that
how to
works.
party?
Yeah.
But the
So-
guy, if you were an 18-year-old guy, nope, you're not allowed in.
So yeah,
Okay,
if
so
you,
yeah,
if you don't know,
It
yeah,
It
Dan,
is
go ahead.
officially, authorities say anyone under the age of 18 cannot be out from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. through Labor Day.
Because then they have to
yeah.
worry about, oh, is this going to family court or is
Yeah.
it going to real court? Do we charge them as an adult or do we just charge them?
With that statement, like that's where like my confusion was because like if someone's over 18, you're an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you should be or not, it's
Yeah.
a different question. But like, if you can be 18, ship up and go to war, I'm sorry, you can't have
Yeah.
a curfew put on you.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Unless
think
it's
that's
martial law.
like a classic sentiment
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like you're old enough to go and fight on the battlefield, which I think is actually like 17 you can sign up.
Well,
You
even
can with
in
a
that
waiver.
Waiver, yeah.
Yeah.
even in
wait.
that respect, is like I can't buy like if I was 18 years old, I can't buy a pack of cigarettes, but I could go die for my country.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here! I want cigarettes if I'm doing that.
And
At
that
the
is that is a
very least.
broader
At the
thing we can
very
do down
least.
the road. But
Yeah.
like it all goes back to because it's like these crazy teens are showing up.
Yeah.
It's
These
like-
crazy teens with their colored skin and their different cultural values.
I blame the rap music.
No, fuck you, Moses.
Now, the thing that really threw me off, too, is the usage of state of emergency for Wildwood.
Well, I mean,
That
that's
that's
yeah,
that's
it was
a new
egregious.
we should sink our teeth into
It was
that.
egregious at best.
State of emergency.
one.
yeah.
Because
Well-
apparently it was just such a huge crowd that they didn't have enough, I guess, police force to handle
Well,
what
they
was going
couldn't
on.
I know Wildwood couldn't hire enough extra police because usually they'll get.
Which is wild because
Police-
they usually have a police officer crawling up your ass any direction you look.
Yeah.
But this year they just couldn't get people to because they'll.
Or are people getting smarter? What's happening?
Well, it might be that, but they'll take people from other police officers from different counties
they pull in
and
from
whatever,
different municipalities.
and like they get like a separate pay rate.
well, yeah,
of
because
sorts and
essentially
whatever.
it's like an overtime
But
gig.
yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
is.
150 grand a year to
But they could only
harass
get
teenagers.
they could only get nine extra, which is in any scheme. 9 extra is nothing unless you're just making a lemonade stand.
We're talking about towns where you go from like a population of like 3,000 or 4,000 to
Oh, it balloons
like
down to
Yeah.
60,000,
to, like, almost a
and it
million.
happens like almost overnight. So it's a night and day difference.
And they need the not to suck the cock out of the fucking cops, but they need extras.
Yeah, I mean, like
they
shit does
do
happen.
need that.
Like,
Like,
you know, I
how
mean, the
could
bottom
they
line
do their
is,
job if they don't have enough people to do it?
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is that yes, if your population goes from like 4,000, let's say, to 60,000, you're going to have an increase in an absolute value of the shit that goes wrong. You know, people do get into fights.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do need like somebody, who's got the legal authority to break it up, let's say. And I'm putting it in the best fucking light. and it's like you don't need as many as some of these towns got, and then some towns are short on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they all are as far as short towns, because why keep them on the payroll if there's only like 5 to 10 people
Well,
there?
because it's
Yeah,
also
it's
it's weird because like in the summer you get this different classification of cop. You
Mm.
get these very young dudes on bicycles,
Yeah.
at least in the area that's closest to me, that are hyper aggressive.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only ones they get because the old timers, they're like, no, I'm too old for that shit. I know what goes on there. So the young guys come in are like, oh, extra pay? Fuck yeah. Oh, and I get to prove myself.
First of all, it's weird that they did it. I understand why, but it seems like it's a loosening of what that's supposed to mean. Now, I know they willy-nilly use it, especially for hurricane season, like give us more money.
Yeah.
But also, recently in Jefferson Township, they declared a state of emergency because a bridge is closed. So
Where the fuck is Jefferson Township?
it's a place in our minds and our
No.
hearts.
Oh, okay. I do need that bridge.
I don't know where
Well,
it
no,
is.
it's-
I have no
don't
idea
know
where.
it
Like,
is.
and you're a history major.
I am
Easy.
legitimately a New Jersey historian. I have no idea where the town
Easy.
is.
I failed out of New Jersey history, by the way. But like,
That's amazing.
it is. Well,
You live here.
It's a do nothing.
I like to do my homework in the stairwell. It's the same professor would walk up
Oh,
to
that's
his
where I
class
like to do
and-
my heroin.
Yeah, he would just kick me out of class before class started.
That's
But
At least you knew.
I mean, it's so funny because like state of emergency, like it seems like it should have X amount of weight, and that's all been diluted away.
Yeah.
Especially when you use it for like, oh yeah, we got too many punk kids on the boardwalk.
Well,
and then the Route 15 bridge is closed. Now that might be a little bit more vital for that town.
I think
a state of emergency?
That's exactly where it comes from, though, Dan. It's that these punk kids, we know what that means.
Mhm.
Right?
Well, they're not punk. None of them are punk.
Kids, right? These punk kids, right? They're like running wild, as we've seen in the
Wild
Gun
in the
Wild
streets.
videos.
Yeah.
And you've got a bridge out here. All of this serves the enemies of America, and that is a good reason to declare a state of emergency, because we need to defend this country and we need to defend the state. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's that these people are aiding the enemies of America. And if there's not, if that's not a good reason to declare a state of emergency, I don't know what is.
I will maintain that we should try to get Benny's on the terror list.
Yeah.
That's
We
a
need to
fair
explain what
point.
that
We've been
is.
working
In
for
fairness,
that
Dan.
for 20 years now.
Can we explain like what a Benny is,
Please.
though? While
Yeah,
we're
right.
doing
Absolutely.
this?
We've
Not
been talking
everybody
about
knows
it
what
all
that
the
means.
time. Yeah. Benny, essentially, it's an abbreviation for
Brooklyn,
Bayonne,
Elizabeth, Newark,
New York.
Yeah.
New York. Yeah.
And so it's essentially meant to like talk about those people that come from that area, come down here during
They
the
show
summer
up for
season.
3 months
Yeah.
for the summer and
Drop a bunch of bills and create a lot of debt.
Yeah.
And
And then you have Shuby, which we won't really.
which
touch
is the
more
Phillies.
for-
It's a
yeah.
Philly thing, and that's really more of a Wildwood thing.
I'll paraphrase it then, if I may, just to make it a little bit more succinct for the listener.
please.
Everyone from New York and North Jersey supports Osama bin Laden and the destruction of America. And
what about
those
Philly?
people, when they're tired of committing terrorism all around the world,
No,
and
they're for Hamas.
striking, when they're
okay.
when they're
All
tired
right.
of
I thought you just
supporting
wanted the
Hezbollah
delineation.
and so on and so forth, then they need to take a break, just like anybody does, And even though terrorism is their main gig, they choose to come down here and just like enjoy a little bit of a little bit of that democracy.
My first thought of state of emergency goes back to the video game called State of Emergency, where it was just like a
I
crowd.
don't know what that is.
You don't remember State of Emergency?
Nope.
It was like loosely, if my memory serves me correct, which
It
it
might
usually
not.
doesn't. It was a game where it was kind of like, well, there was a zombie game where you're in a mall. I can't remember what that is. And GTA.
Okay.
And like, because it had the alerts, like when GTA, when you steal so many cars, you get like 5
Oh,
stars
yeah,
or
you
whatever.
get the stars.
And it's kind of like that.
Okay.
But you're just killing
There's better
random people.
Yeah.
And that was a state of like it was called that, but that would be a state of emergency where you got a mob full of people just killing each other.
Yeah.
And
that's clearly what was happening at Wildwood.
Well,
I feel like
but
that's
what happens in Wildwood every year.
That's
Not a state of emergency. That's a Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I feel like it should be like reserved for special occasions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is like a day to day. I feel like that is kind of like it's a mob of people killing each
Especially
other.
in the summer.
Living in New Jersey is a little bit of a mob of people killing each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes like we're like right now we're obviously like recording this in a fortified compound.
Obviously.
And it's like because I can hear them outside.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive today.
Dan is an amazing editor because he can edit out all those explosions because
Well,
we have a lot of land.
It's essentially the road right now. We're just in the underground bunker with all
what
the
the
supplies.
listener doesn't know, and just to make this a little bit more clear to our listeners, when we are done with this podcast, typically Dan will go up to the roof. We're a little bit too sauced up, but Dan will go up to the roof, and we have a high-powered water hose up there, and he just kind of hoses them down. I mean, there's like a little bit of
I hose them down first to create some separation. Then I get the twin machetes and just start going to town.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's
explains.
honestly, you get pretty wild
they
out there.
sound sexy.
It makes me afraid. Like I don't know what's going to happen to us one day.
You
All
gotta
I'm hearing is a
appreciate
double
his
mint
cardio
commercial now.
routine, though.
Yeah. Well, this is why Dan stays in the shape that he's in. Yeah. And honestly, I've been noticing it. Dan.
That's
it
why
looks,
he
it
is
looks
so
good. But,
He's
It's-
pasty, but he looks good.
Wielding dual machetes is a challenging thing. And yet this is a Sunday right now, but it's typically a Friday. And like every Friday I get to like observe this and it's like Dan in his like full form essentially. He gets that hose out and he rocks that shit. And there's like fucking 50, 60 New Jerseyans mixed in with New Yorkers and he pushes them back from the walls. And we're like watching through the window, having our drinks.
Our
and then he
final
busts
form
out his
Dan.
machetes and he's like, I'll be back. And we all basically just like take it easy, It comes back in covered in blood.
A man's
it's
man.
It's a weird,
I would like to
man's
take this
awesome,
moment to say hashtag get Dan paid.
Yeah.
You need some new
not for nothing.
machetes.
This
Those
man
things
is
are
putting
dull
it-
as fuck and blood. They're rusted from the blood.
I also might need lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we do have to clear these bodies.
Yes.
That was our job. And there's like, I don't want to talk about the smell, but
It's
it
starting
is-
to become a problem.
It's a problem.
To
All right, we'll
kind
deal
of
with
like,
that later.
Most of that is me.
to kind of bring it down into a succinct, we've always known this.
Yeah.
This is like just the reality of living in a place that for 9 months has a fifth of the population that it does for the other 3 months.
Yeah.
And yes, when you get a bunch of people, I'm telling you, this is the fucking thing. When you get a bunch of young people on vacation, rules be damned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really what they want to go. They want to drink. They want to club. And they want to make the worst decisions that they can make and will regret 9 months later.
Yeah.
But,
but because you're right about that. But Governor Chicklets is he's hyping it up, and I don't know.
But it's also like he's speaking out of both sides of that odd mouth of his.
Yeah. He has to kind of do that because if this goes like as viral,
Yes.
and like the New York Post did a story about this, a lot of publications did a story about this. He can't afford to have people be like, I guess we can't go to the shore. I guess it's too violent because the state kind of
that would
relies
be
on
great.
It
it.
absolutely does.
That would
It's
be great.
big money.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely would love
Let's
it.
never forget, it is big money.
Yeah.
And he's also a Democratic governor.
Yep.
And he's going to say whatever he thinks he needs to say
Yep.
and then put forward, I can't remember the name of the initiative, but this shore
Protect the
initiative
shore
thing
or whatever.
that is now disappeared into the ether
Yeah.
that I can't find anymore.
That was only good for a week.
I'm sure it was.
That's all
probably
they
why it doesn't
intended.
exist online
They
anymore.
intended 3 days, but they got almost a week out of it. It's a success.
The ultimate thing is, though, this is nothing new.
No.
Now it's just sensationalism.
Yeah, it's sensationalism, but it's also the gaslighting from
Yes,
both sides because they
absolutely.
each want to use this to their own advantage. And it's like, newsflash, asshole, this is every year.
Yeah.
Stop telling me that this has never happened before, or no, nothing happened at all.
Right.
It's like there's a little bit of a balance between something happened because a city called a goddamn state of emergency.
Yeah.
And a 15-year-old got stabbed.
Well, there
15-year-old
was a
gets that.
crowd, and one person got stabbed, which, honestly, for Wildwood, it was a pretty good week.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that's Dan, you and I were talking about a bar that we went to when we were kids.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. Do you
Oh,
remember?
The bar that I went to when I was a kid was called the Prime Time.
Yeah,
the
it's
prime
the same one.
time.
And it would be the one
I
bar.
don't know that one.
Please forgive me if I've said this already on the podcast.
No, I don't think you have.
I
Please.
used to go there all the time with my dad. I would actually like tug on his shirt. Can we go to the Prime Time? I want to watch the Dolphins. Like I would show up in like Merino jersey, getting high-fived by drunks. 'Cause
Yep.
It was like a Dolphins bar. And that place,
Which is weird by itself.
Yeah, that is a weird
Can I
thing.
just put
I don't
quick
even think
interstitial?
Miami has that.
This will be 5 seconds. For me, it was the Red Lion.
Oh,
yeah.
I
yeah,
could
good
talk
opinion.
years
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I used to go there all the time with him, my brother, and there were times where it's just like, yeah, we can't really go there now because people get stabbed in the back. And I was just like, I used to go there all the time, and it shut down because of crime. Oh my
My
god!
God.
Yeah, I only went there for the crime. Their drink
I-
specials were nothing.
I also went there as a child. My father and mother would both bring me separately, and we would wander in. And I remember very distinctly that they had a bowl of dum-dum lollipops that was like right there.
For the
my
kids.
dad, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, because these were different.
Also,
times, you know?
they also had that. So
I'm
if you
100
got,
years old, by the way.
also, if you got pulled over, a dum dum will cover your breath.
Is that true?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, I'll take that.
But that's why they had it.
The bottom line is that even back then, and Dan, you and I are basically the same age, I would go there and I was just happy to like have this experience, like a fucking lollipop. Somebody's like, hey, kid. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
I see you like
I feel
sucking.
I feel so validated. He didn't need to go to sexual route.
This is why YouTube hates us.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, fuck you too.
But
I
even
agree.
back then, there was like days that we might not attend.
Yeah.
Because it was just last night that someone was like viciously assaulted.
Yeah.
And like the cops are there. So both of my parents, dad who would like be there for the liquor, mom who does not drink,
Yeah.
but was there for my dad's liquor. You know? And it's like, well, we have to go to a different spot that doesn't serve lollipops to children.
I guess it's to the bank.
Yeah.
It's funny. And like I said, like you guys grew up close to each other. And I wasn't that far away, but Moses and I grew up a little bit north of that in Brick.
Yeah, we've grown
Where
up
we
in the same
had
area.
the Red Line,
Yeah.
which was very. They didn't have dum-dums, but like
you guys are missing out.
Yeah.
No, they just had cocaine.
yeah,
Well, for kids.
but like,
Yes,
quite-
actually, yes.
quite literally, like
You gotta
my
make that
parents
into a
would go
shirt.
to the bar and they'd prop me up in a bar seat and get me like a little plate of French fries, and all the fucking waitresses would fall in love with me and the bartenders and stuff like that. And I was like 2 years old. It's like, and my parents talk about it like, oh, it's like no problem at all. And yeah, here we are on the
Back
Loud and
then
Drunk
it wasn't.
podcast.
If it wasn't both of them, then one of them was getting laid from this cute ass fucking 2-year-old.
Well, because the Red Lion associated with couples. That way, one person could watch the kid while the other person does cocaine in the
Yeah,
bathroom.
yeah.
Because you don't want to leave your kid unattended because that kid's going to get cocaine too. Like, not that they didn't, but
Oh, the glory of being a young person in
Yeah.
the 80s.
The one thing I wanted to bring up before we move on from the culture war aspect of this. So when this story kind of broke during Memorial Day weekend, News 12, NJ12, which is our hyper-local TV station, they cover all like local news in New Jersey, sent out a tweet saying this, the city of Wildwood had declared a state of emergency. And Mr. Potato Head himself, Brian Stelter, if you don't know who he is, he had a show called Reliable Sources on CNN. He was also a writer for the New York Times. He tried to fact check these people.
Oh my God.
He said, nope.
Really?
just leave it at that.
Only got a word in.
Just nope.
This was rescinded hours before your tweet. And if he had clicked on the link, he would have seen that the fucking link had been updated with more information. He's supposedly a journalist.
Yeah, supposedly a journalist of name.
Yeah.
Of repute that you would know of him.
He was on the New York Times.
Yeah.
Which, like, this is the reason why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah,
because it bothers me as somebody who has, like, a journalism degree. And when I was first going for that, like, I always viewed, because I always wanted to write newspapers.
Right.
I always viewed the New York Times as the pinnacle. Like, this is, if I made it to the New York Times, then this is where you should be. This is the mountaintop.
Oh, it's easy when you compare it to the Post.
Yeah. I mean, like, and the Post is better than the Daily News.
And nobody can really write those page sixes.
Yeah. But
that's the only thing they're known for.
For him to punch down on News 12 like this, when News 12 had already updated their fucking article.
And like literally with no integrity to even look into anything.
Not even look at it. And then your boy took to our show account because one person, Mr. Mitchell here, wrote, and this is pretty much a great summation of it, admitting to not reading the story. Nice touch. The story was updated, but not the tweet. And then I responded to this individual through the Loud and Drunk podcast. By the way, follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We have some fun over there.
I'd like to digress. Is it still tweets? Because it's X now?
Yeah, no.
Are they just
It's
X's?
a post, but who cares?
Don't get stuck in the mud.
I like the mud.
I said to this individual, it's on brand for him. And to which he replied, it's just odd because Wildwood is a cesspool on its best day. Brian chiming in to fact check for them does help figure out what the civil unrest was in the first place. I think he meant to say doesn't.
Right.
Because that doesn't really make sense in the context of what he's
exactly.
No, it actually makes perfect sense.
To you.
Yeah.
It does.
To which I replied, Wildwood is a shithole, but calling it civil unrest is a new one. But him chiming in like that is a nice little punch down. Stories and tweets can always be updated, but he'll still be an asshole.
Yeah. Love that.
That's well played. And you know what? Well deserved on his end.
I do want to finish this thread off real quick, though, because I think you'll enjoy the rest of it. Mr. Mitchell Wexler said, shithole is aspirational for them, I agree. Either it's something criminal, it's overcrowding, but civil unrest requires more detail. As for @Brian Stelter, and you didn't reply to this, you sack of shit. His need to dunk on other outlets is even funnier when it's a miss. Never takes the L in style either. To which I finally replied, and we'll drop this. We'd also like to know what Wildwood PD meant by civil unrest, because if they think civil unrest is a bunch of drunks causing trouble, we might be out of a podcast.
Mitchell, if you're listening, write in personally so we could get you a free t-shirt.
I would love that. Do we have free t-shirts?
I don't see why we don't.
I mean, I'll give him a t-shirt.
It's a Hanes. Like, this is white.
I thought we were
But he
like,
could get it
piss
for
on
free.
something and then hand it to him.
Well, you can go to the website.
I went like a little aggressive with it. I'm sorry.
But it does drive me nuts, and it is all certain of that culture war thing where everyone's trying to use it. I can guarantee you that Brian Stelter, who has been fired from CNN for having a shitty show, a shitty opinion show.
Which is hard because CNN only produces shitty shows.
Yeah. And then he gets like a cake job. I think it was at Harvard to like teach.
I think so.
Good luck to those journalism students.
Well, this is what you're not supposed to do. It's good to get it from the source.
Yeah.
For me, it's one of those classic things of a has-been who needs to now be salacious to try to just get his name still in any sort of relevance.
And there's an alarmist quality there.
And it pisses me off too, as I said, because this is a hyper-local news outlet. They're just trying to do their job. The person who sent out that tweet probably makes $15 an hour and has to do that. Either they have to schedule it out or they have to do it on a Sunday fucking morning. You could be a little bit less of a fucking dick face. Yeah. And just like, a kid sent this out and they probably got the copy from someone else, sent it out, they updated the story, and they'll probably send another freaking tweet. It's Twitter. Like, they send tweets all the time.
It was probably just a personal meme going around the office. And he's like, oh, facts.
But it pisses me off.
Yeah, these look like facts. I read them like facts, so they must be facts.
It pisses me off because this guy had a nationwide platform on CNN and he was a writer for the New York Times. He had hit a pinnacle of journalism and now he's punching down at local news outlets. Fuck you. You're a piece of shit.
I'm telling you, it's a relevance game. He's just trying to keep his name out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's the good press, bad press thing, not as much as like the actual article or stuff in regard to itself, but like his name. We're talking about him right now.
Yeah, we're giving him his clout and fuck him.
Yeah, also fuck you.
So that was pretty much a predatory practice from Mr. Stelter.
Yep.
And we're used to predatory practices because that's all that shore towns do.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I'm kind of about preying on people. So
what?
if I may now.
Yes.
If I may. My fun little story from my girlfriend. She's out there at Point Pleasant. If I can drop these names, she tells me in the lead up. It's like the day prior. She's like, "We're going to be going out. Me and a couple of the girls. We're going to be going out to Point Pleasant and get a couple of drinks. This, that, the other. Would you mind driving us?" And I said, "No,
I'm drunk.
I don't want to do that. Am I like obligated to do so? Is this a real question?" And she's like, "No. I was like asked to ask you, but are you open to that?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I will immediately get a ticket." I basically start my car in my driveway, and I'm like fucking what, like 20 miles away, and fucking Point Pleasant cops are going to be here at my house, and they're also like searching the cupboards and shit.
Yeah.
So I basically declined that, and she was like, "That's fine. We'll get an Uber over there." So they shoot over there. Don't talk to her for a while. She's having a good old time. Shoot her a text. Hope you're having a nice time with the girls. This, that. Get a text back from her. And she's like, I got a ticket. And there might have been exclamation points involved.
Probably,
I'm not sure.
Probably.
Because the situation descended.
An emoji or two.
It descended so quickly. And I'm like, what's up? What happened? And I've got like ideas in my mind, like I love my lady, but like, maybe she got a little wild, did something that like warranted the Johnny Law coming in and doing something about it. I was like, I didn't know where to go with it. And she's like, I smoked my vape. I'm like, wow, this like almost warrants a phone call. Can we? Almost. Yeah. Can you describe the vaping?
If I wasn't knee deep in my whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, here I am like drunk on a Sunday. And she's like, yeah, she was like, I walked out of the bar. I was walking down the boardwalk and a cop came up to me. And basically the story goes like this. She's walking down the boardwalk. She's with 2 or 3 girlfriends. They've been like drinking, but none of them is like sauced yet. Like they're going in that direction, don't get me wrong, but like they're not there.
That's their end game.
Yeah, it's early in the day. It's like noon, something like that, fucking 1 p.m., whatever. And she's walking down the boardwalk and she takes out her vape and she like takes a hit off of it. And a cop like observes her because she was not trying to conceal it. And the cop walks over and says, "Hey, I'm going to write you a ticket right now." And she and the girls that she's with proceed to laugh and think that like the cop is like joking with them, that this is like a jovial, like cops maybe flirting with me.
Maybe it's a fun thing. He's trying to hit on me.
Yeah, he's trying to hit on me, that sort of thing. And then he just proceeds to like stone face, begin to take out his ticket book and write her a ticket. And she's like, whoa, what the fuck? And he basically, enumerates to her like, this is real. You've just broken the law and this is a ticket and I'm writing it out and you got to pay it. And she like, she drops internally. We all know that feeling where it's like, oh my God, there's consequences to what I just did.
Real life is happening now.
Yeah, exactly. And basically he writes her out this ticket. So I'm hearing about this and I'll do the story a little bit in a reversal here. But she basically, so I'm talking to her. She hits me up then after that. I think it was a proper phone call now because now she's getting like actually mad. And she's like, I just got written a fucking ticket. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? like for vaping on the boardwalk. I was like aghast myself simply because I didn't really know. Like I know that you're not supposed to smoke outside anymore, but you're outside. So just like my own personal opinion about this is like, you're outside, so you're not actually hurting anybody with like what you're exhaling. I know that like sometimes if you walk past somebody and they're smoking a cigar, maybe you get like a bit of a whiff of the smoke. But for the most part, you're outdoors, the wind's blowing it away. You're on the beach, not for nothing.
Right.
So like you're really like, you're not hurting anybody. And on top of that, and I called vapes douche flutes, which I stole from somebody else. But like,
how are you enjoying that smoking on that robot cock?
Right, exactly. I have a low opinion of vaping, but that said, like that's much more harmless.
It's innocuous.
Yeah, then like if you're smoking a cigarette and you fucking blow the smoke in somebody's face, okay. But like she's smoking a fucking vape, took a fucking little like whatever out of it,
Water
so, like,
vapor.
Exactly. So she's like now reeling from this ticket, which she says to me is $100. I get a phone call later because now she's like her and the other girls are like, we're going to get fucked up right now because this just happened.
We had a chink in our day, so now we're going to hit it hard.
Yeah, I know what this is like.
Yeah.
The smallest thing goes wrong for me.
times.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody fucking like looks at me cockeyed and I'm like, well, I guess I have to get drunk today. This guy ruined it.
And it was just a mirror.
It often is.
It's always me. So basically, she's like under this impression and I'm like, concerned for her and what have you. And it's like a little bit of time goes by. I eventually end up finding out happening that first of all, the ticket ended up being $400.
Fuck you.
$400.
Fuck everyone.
$400, right? And as like a little side note to this, because it's probably one of my favorite parts of the story, one of her coworkers by the name of Sandy, right? We were hanging out with her earlier. Absolutely delightful person.
One of the best.
Yeah. Apparently she took it to herself to look at this cop like in the eye because she had just like the right amount to where you talk back to the police. And she looked at this cop in the eye and was like, so you're writing out a real ticket. We were all laughing and joking about this a minute ago. We could have all been friends, but now you had to go and fuck it up. What about this person right over here who's smoking a vape like 12 feet away from us? And the cop just like stoically is staring down at his fucking, like notepad basically. And that was basically the gist of it. And the final like coup de grace of the story was that she went to go. I told my lady, like, if you need some help paying it, whatever, I'll help you. It's not a big deal. She insisted. So it's like she went to go and pay it online and was not allowed to. You're not allowed to pay
some of the tickets are appearance mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are ridiculous. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just let me pay it.
And then you get court fees on top of it. Yeah. It's such so it's like the long story short of it is that it's like obviously a bullshit thing, but it's a money grab. It's a money grab. It's the government taxing you for something that
for existing on the boardwalk.
Existing on the boardwalk. Like she did nothing wrong. And also if she knew that you weren't allowed to do that, then she just wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
She would have walked off of the boardwalk and smoked her vape. Not that should be necessary.
It should.
But like, exactly. It's the same way. Like I know that you're not supposed to smoke cigarettes on the boardwalk and I personally don't go to the boardwalk a lot, but I'm aware of that and I'm not going to do it in front of a cop,
Well, you're not, at least on point, you're not allowed to bring your dog for a walk on the boardwalk.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, that's a fine.
I've heard you're not supposed to bring your hands with you either. Yeah. You have to leave those at home.
They haven't put up signs because they got rid of their hands because they can't, like, it's a catch-22.
for a
can't put up the signs without hands.
For a point of quick comparison, last year I got a careless driving ticket, which I absolutely deserved. I did something, I passed somebody in a way I shouldn't have passed in South Jersey, so it's a little bit different, but like got a careless, which is a fairly significant ticket. Mm-hmm. $96, didn't have to go to court, paid it on.
Wow.
No, I'm not going to somebody
when Nick listens to this podcast, she's going to be so upset.
I know. But like that's what it is. If you inadvertently do something benign in one of these shore towns,
they come after you.
They come after you, and they come after you hard. They hit you with like the maximum.
Because that's their revenue stream. It's tourism and then ripping off the poor souls to try to go there.
It's literally like, and I know that we're just talking about like the Jersey Shore, so I don't want to get too far off into a cop thing. But the bottom line is that you are collecting your own paycheck by giving people tickets,
Yeah.
which means that you're a part of the mob.
But it's also
That's
the same
really
point.
all
It's-
that it is.
You
It's
also
like
get
the
a
city
bonus.
councils that passed this legislation as well, because the cops wouldn't be
they're all in
enforcing
on
their
it.
shit.
Yeah.
If, you know, they were like, oh yeah,
If
let's
they
just
didn't
ban
have
people from
quotas.
vaping on the boardwalk.
They're all like, especially when you're dealing with small towns
Yeah.
like that. It's like this cliche of the small town.
Yeah.
If you watch like old
I think we
movies and
mentioned this
shit.
when we were like laying out the thesis of this podcast. Is that
Exactly,
like
yeah.
the shore town is just like we watched that Chuck Norris movie, whatever the hell it was
Oh
called.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was just like
Yeah.
legitimately, you are in a small town, you will be tried, convicted, and possibly executed.
by the same person.
Yeah, by the same person in the court right there.
While you're
Exactly,
doing
yeah.
it with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, it's entirely along those lines.
Now, also, like, we'll even flip that because there is a different flavor on the flip side.
Yeah.
So these towns, they obviously make a lot of money on these tickets in the
Yeah.
summer from, you know, getting these people. Because also, like, say if these tourists are from New York and stuff, like, they're going to be no shows.
Yeah.
So you're getting exacerbated amounts of money
Yeah.
that they're essentially
To-
paying
to-
to not deal with this issue.
To clarify that,
Yeah.
the only way to contest a ticket in New Jersey, I know that some states have slightly different rules,
yeah.
but the only way to contest it in New Jersey is that you have to presently be there.
Yeah.
So you have to, like, if you're not from this state, you're going to have to travel back
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
to contest the ticket.
Which is
And-
fucked up because I've seen you on Zoom calls for court.
That was during
And
a
it's
different
like-
time.
that was
though.
during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, like, if you could do it then, you could certainly do it now.
Yeah, not anymore, though.
No.
I guess the internet is out.
We have to walk these things back. I ran into such a situation because when my kids' sisters were in high school, one of them ran track and she had track practice or whatever the heck in Seaside Park, which is a town over from Seaside
So
Heights.
she ran too fast and got a speeding ticket.
Thank you for that terrible dad joke. So she came over to my house. We had that place back in the day,
Oh.
Mr. Wallbanger. Her father dropped her off there, and I drove her to Seaside Park. And the turn-in for the main road to make the turn off to the beach didn't really have the speed limit posted.
Yeah.
Now, if you know any sort of town that isn't run by a bunch of fuckheads, if you're going 35, 40 miles an hour, that's a pretty safe speed. You're pretty much in the ballpark
Right.
of what the speed limit is
Right.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
This place, since it didn't really have it, I was doing that. I'm like, you know what, 35, 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I should do that.
Yeah.
I get pulled over and I'm like, I'm sorry, officer. There's no speed limit sign. So I was just going to a reasonable speed. It's like, it's
Wrong
20
answer, Dan.
It's 25 and it's posted. And I'm like, no, it's fucking not.
Yeah,
It
where's-
really fucking isn't.
Yeah.
And then essentially what happened from that is I got really heated and then I was going to contest the ticket and I had to go back to Seaside Park and they're like, you have to speak to I guess they just have like a lawyer there that just kind of just fills out some, just writes some shit down and just all right,
you're a regular
you,
prosecutor.
you could just do this or if you pay $400, there won't be any points on your,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's about making money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
It's
was
about
just
making
like,
money.
son of a bitch. I just want this to be
It's
over.
a
And I don't
lot
want
of
to
fucking
fucking
money.
That's how they
points.
get you. It's
Yeah.
about making money.
So I did the $400 freaking thing. And I went back there to look. Did I miss it? Am I fucking retarded? Like, what happened?
No, you went back to
Yeah. I went back there to see.
That's strange for Dan to be so thorough.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
He runs
literally.
this podcast and nothing is thorough here.
By the way, if you guys notice the quality, that's because Dan doesn't really. He's not super thorough about things.
Hashtag get Dan paid.
Yeah.
The speed limit was posted on the turn. It was behind a tree.
Of course.
So you couldn't really freaking see it.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan,
The
you
one
couldn't see
tree
it.
in
You couldn't see
Seaside.
it.
Yeah.
You couldn't see it because you weren't looking. Right. It's behind a tree. Just look behind the tree. I mean, you just contradicted yourself.
I would
You don't
like
look
to
behind
tell-
the trees when you're driving? Are you an irresponsible driver? Maybe you should have gotten reckless too.
There are predatory practices in these short towns. I did meet the one nice cop in Seaside Heights because way back in the day, I was still in the Navy.
I feel
at
like
this
there's
point.
always one in a
Yeah.
municipality, but
My brother, a Navy buddy of mine, and are in Seaside. We've been drinking all day, and then I'm trying to get out of Seaside. I'd never really driven through Seaside, so this is all new to me.
it's odd.
I wouldn't call it driving.
So I
Yeah.
made a left because I knew I needed to turn around, and apparently I missed a stop sign. Didn't really fucking see it. It's
Yep.
dark out. There's
Yep.
no real lighting at that area, and so I blew by it, and a cop stops me, and he's like, "Listen, man, all three of you are service. I don't really want to jam you up, but I can't have you driving because you're tuned up." And I'm like, I really don't think I'm that tuned up, man. But whatever.
You're
You're very lucky.
Yeah, I'm gonna tune you up.
Yeah. But what he ended up doing was saying, if you got a buddy, call him and get you out of here. And I'm like, all right. And that's when I called you, Mr. Wallbanger, despite the fact this is the first time we've ever met.
Also, I'm
Who is
named after liquor,
perpetually
so you could
drunk.
imagine the state I was in.
Yeah. And so you and friend of the show, Pat, showed up to get me, my buddy, and my brother out of there, but also get my car out of there because
Yeah.
I need that. I can't have that just hanging
Yeah.
out in
Yeah.
I'm
Seaside.
surprised you could do that late.
I mean,
Usually they make you wait till it's at the other where impound, and then you have to do it.
This is gray area
Yeah.
stuff, so it's like at discretion.
Every time I've done it, I had to wait for
Oh.
impound.
I actually did have a little bit too of a self-reflection on the drive back. It's like, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should stop drinking. And then when I got back to your place, Mr. Wallbanger, it's almost like a disembodied hand just came out of nowhere to give me a Jello shot, and I'm like, woo!
Here we go again.
Here I go drinking again.
Yeah.
Speaking of a Seaside, so I tried to do the right thing once. Went there it was an event. It was a bar crawl. And went there, took a taxi there. It ended at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't get a taxi home. So I'm like, well, I don't have a car here. I can walk. And for me, it's less than 5 miles. So it'd take a couple hours.
Yeah.
Not that
So
big of
it's a
deal.
long walk, but
Not that big of a deal. Well, I'm on my walk home, and 3 Seaside cop cars descend on me.
Yeah.
And
What are you doing here, boy?
I'm not doing anything crazy. Like, yeah, I've been drinking for a while.
To
but
put
like,
this in context, Justin talking right now is white as shit.
yeah,
so it actually makes
I'm
no
the whitest
sense.
one here. Well, maybe I might have contention with Dan. Like, I'm minding my own business, walking on the sidewalk. It's not like I'm walking in the street or anything, because Seaside's weird, and like the town's going up to Barrier Island, Lavalette, and stuff like that. Once you get into there's no sidewalks anymore. But like minding my own business, I'm not harassing anybody. 3 cop cars, 3 Seaside cop cars roll up on me. What are you doing?
Sir, put the sneakers down. They're
like,
down as far as they can go. I'm standing.
And I'm like,
Put your other arms down. Up.
I was being legit. I'm like, I'm walking home. Well, where are you going? I'm like, right over the Manilokin Road Bridge. From this point, in like 3.5 miles from here.
You're just like you're describing the opening scene from Rambo. It's like, hey, where are you headed? I'm just going the night. Oh, well, there's a great grilled cheese place just one town over. I'll take you there.
It's like you've never seen Rambo: The Jersey Shore.
They stopped me, would not allow me to continue. I had to prove to them that I called a taxi.
Yeah,
isn't
that amazing?
Never showed.
I had.
Yeah.
Like, this is fairly, not early days of cell phones, but like not like cell phones we have
It
now.
was before Uber.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well before Uber. And then they detained me there. Not detained. Like I wasn't cuffed or anything.
No, you're not
but
being detained.
Well,
you're just not allowed to
You're
leave.
not under arrest.
I
Totally
was
different things. of course.
Definitely made to stay there under threat of something happening against me.
How do you like your ribs?
Until,
How do you like your freedom?
Do you like it free?
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
The best I could give you
Sit your ass
is
down.
a court appearance.
and they did the whole thing, made me sit on the fucking curb
Yeah.
and shit like that. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? And I'm not even really being combative. I'm just like, I'm walking home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not being loud. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not making a scene. I proved to you that I called a taxi and couldn't get a taxi.
Oh,
They made me wait there until I could secure a taxi, which the sun was up.
that's
When-
ridiculous.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm not surprised though.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thanks. Now I'm sober and even farther from my alcohol.
I actually got home probably 2 hours later than I would have.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's fucking crazy. I watched. This is like a digression, but like along the same lines. I might have told you this story once before, but I was riding from. It must have been up near you guys.
Yeah,
so I was
probably.
riding from basically like from the Brick area down to my town, Bayville, and it's a long bike ride. It takes about an hour. And I was doing this after like a night of drinking. So it's like, it's the middle of the night. It was like a weekday. So like nobody's out.
Right.
So I'm like having like a nice like summertime like bike cruise, a little bit tuned up, nothing crazy. And I meet like another cyclist on the road who had also been drinking, but he's like cruising. He's riding even better than I am. He's like a proper like cyclist, like this
or
guy.
alcoholic.
Yeah. Both things.
Yeah.
But he like knows what he's doing. Like he's like got a nice bike. I'm driving some janky shit, and it's like, and we were just like cruising together for like a minute, just like a low, how do you do kind of scenario. And then we like separated on the road because we didn't really know each other.
Right.
So it was just
Right.
like
It's pleasantry.
yeah, exactly. Like I said hi, and now we're like right on opposite sides of the road. And we're somewheres in downtown Toms River, and we're just like cruising. We're just like cruising. And it's just like, again, like none of us is doing anything wrong. Like I'm just enjoying myself listening to music. And this dude's on the opposite side of the road. So it's like in downtown Toms River where there's, I think there's 4 lanes right there. I
Yeah.
remember exactly where it happened. And he's there on like the left side of the highway away from me, and a fucking cop drives right the fuck into him.
Oh my God.
Right the fuck into him, like takes him out. And I'm like, holy shit, did I just watch a man get murdered? You know? And so I like stop, I slow down. I'm like super coasting.
Yeah.
It's called due process.
Yeah, right. And the cop basically, I'm like there long enough for the cop to be like, what are you doing riding out here? The guy's like, I'm riding a bike. You know? And like I watched for like a while. I might have like texted somebody. Like I stopped long enough for that. And then I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Somebody's gonna kill me. You know? And
That guy is whiter than I am.
Yeah, I was having like this nice bike ride and like taking my time. And, like I'm stopping at every intersection and such like that. Now I'm like huffing it, and I'm like, I gotta beat these cars. You know, like somebody's gonna murder me. It's a hell of it to do.
Hey, boy, don't you come riding by this town.
Stop being safe in my town.
Do something wrong, or else I'm gonna arrest you.
Yeah, exactly.
Try that at a shore town.
Yeah. So what I was about to say about the opposite
That's
side
good,
of that.
I like that one.
So in the other 9 months, where it's very slow in these parts, they are propped up everywhere. I call going on the barrier island. Like I'll even include
35, really.
Yeah, 35. So like
yeah.
for us, Point Pleasant, Bayhead, Manilokin, Normandy, all the way down through Seaside, I call that the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Because the cops are just posted up looking for anybody slightly stepping out of line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if they can't find somebody, that's really what it comes
They'll
down
make
to.
it up.
The cops are going to stop you, right? But it doesn't need to be you.
Right.
It could be
Yeah.
somebody who made a slightly bigger mistake than you. And it takes nothing. It's like fucking in one of these towns, I like one time like a cop like pulled out right behind me and I was doing everything right. First of all, I was already doing everything right. And then the cop pulled out right behind me. So I'm like, let me really make sure now, you know?
And it also adds a level of anxiety.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
And so I'm
That's how
like
they get you.
cruising, and like this is why like these days, like I just pull over if a cop pulls out behind me.
No,
I'm
that's-
just like I'm not playing this game.
You know, it's kind of the right thing to do
yeah.
because it cuts it
So
short.
he's like-
So if there's nothing, there's nothing.
Exactly.
And,
So this guy's like following me, and I know that I'm doing everything right. And his lights come on, I pull over, and he's like, you know why I stopped you? And I'm like, I have no idea. And he goes, you tapped your brake light. You been drinking? I'm like, no, I have not been. And I tapped my brake light because you were like a foot off my bumper, and I was like trying to do the exact speed limit, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I can't make the car go the exact speed.
You know what's funny? So
You know?
like, I drive a 9,500 pound truck. I'm on my brakes all the time because it weighs 9,500 pounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So like, yeah, that could happen to me at any given time.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
very
that's what-
conscious of that.
Yeah. I was in with within let's say the speed limit was like 40 miles an hour. I was like 39,
Yeah.
41.
Yeah.
I'm like right there, you know? And and tapping the brakes was reason to stop me. It makes it seem like I'm drunk apparently. And
Because
mind
a
you,
function of your car.
had not had a drink, you know? And then I ended up getting a fucking ticket for, I think he gave me careless for tapping the
For
brakes.
tapping the
brakes, yeah, in the middle of traffic. You're not supposed to do that.
I have a fun story of coming back from Seaside.
Oh boy.
I went to go pick up a buddy's girlfriend because she was out drinking in Seaside,
Sure.
and he didn't drive. So she wanted to come home. Like,
What a
sure,
good friend.
whatever, I'll go pick her up. Like I was getting high at his place, so I wasn't drinking yet. So I went there. I go into the bar to go collect her, and she's like, "Oh, well, I got all these beers." I'm like, "Okay, I'll help you, and we'll get going." Yeah, one drink turns into like 7 or 8, and so we're driving home. Get over it, like
3 more shots. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two
well,
shots
there
of
was a
vodka.
lot of shots. I didn't bring that up. So we're like in that Manilokin area.
Yeah.
Just coming over, like we're crossing the bridge. That's kind of where I got pulled over on the other side of the bridge
Uh-huh.
because I saw him behind me, and then I pulled over because I'm like, oh, I'm wasted. So I pulled over, and then he comes behind me. He's like, oh, you know why I pulled you over? I'm like, well, first off, sir, you didn't. I pulled over because I was going to make a call. What can I help you with? And he's like, well, have you been drinking? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, she's got to drive. Meanwhile, she is passed the fuck out. It took him a half hour to wake her up so she could drive.
Road safety.
And I'm like, okay, like, I guess she could drive. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm well better than her. Because it took him a good half hour to just wake her up to get any ID or anything before he's like, oh, you have to drive.
And then you woke up in the Atlantic Ocean.
And then, no, we got home, and I was just like, that was fucking bizarre because I'm clearly probably better than him.
Yeah.
And we spent a half hour trying to wake her up, like splashing water in her face. She passed the fuck. She was drinking all goddamn day, amongst other things. I was just like, why is she allowed to drive? And he's like, because you're not good to drive. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, she's not. And
So you woke up the catatonic lady.
yeah, and that was
Surely
okay to
she-
drive.
Surely she has to be better behind the wheel. We can't wake her up. She may be dead with the amount of effort we're putting into trying to wake her up.
Yeah,
She's going to be better.
I'm going to bury her. No, like, I'm about the earth.
You got pulled over one time leaving the pub with a pitcher of beer.
Me?
Yeah,
With a pitcher?
with a pitcher of
That
beer.
doesn't sound like...
I mean, it
That's
does sound
the
on brand.
It
Yeah.
sounds on brand, but I wouldn't bring up
You
one
got-
of their
you-
pitchers
you
because then I
got-
have to bring it back.
Yeah.
The story that was told is I remember is that I don't know if this actually happened. It's the story you told is that you left, you stole a pitcher of beer, you seatbelted it into the passenger seat,
I'm about safety.
and then instead of going home west,
Yeah.
you went east over into the barrier
That
island.
happened.
Yeah. And then when the cop stopped you, rightfully so, the cop was well in line here. That was one of the usages of your gold card.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to say real quick about Jersey Shore and all that stuff is that, yeah, if you had bothered to make the locals feel welcome at these towns,
Well-
rather than doing these predatory practices, you probably could have a sustainable town the entire
Well, yeah,
time.
you might people actually might be willing to come into your town.
And if you saw some of these videos too, the most egregious thing out of everything is that it's $30 to park.
yes,
$30.
that's actually cheap.
But it's
It
also,
is.
that's like the amount, like it's like $40. So the last time I went to a sporting event, it was $30
Yeah.
to park like outside of
I
like,
hear
Citizens
it's
Bank
50 in
Park.
Point Pleasant right now for the outside lot.
We
insane.
just, me and my wife just went there recently, and I was just like, I remember when this lot, like, it's not a lot anymore,
Right,
it's just a
right.
condo or something. And I was like, this was $10 to park
Yep.
all day, and now it's like $40 just to park somewhere near the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're just
That's
so like
Well, and the thing is,
prepare for a hike just to
Yeah.
get to where you want to go, because you're not going to find
and
any
it
cheap
allows to
parking.
continue and get higher because people pay it.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why I don't go to spots like that.
And that's why, if I ever run for governor of New Jersey, my number one task will be to build a goddamn beach wall. We're going to keep all these bennies out of the beach, and we're going to get Manhattan and Philadelphia to pay for it.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
I
They
love
want to
this
take credit
idea.
for that fucking statue? Why not?
So, if you agree with my platform and you want to see me be governor of New Jersey with a
I
beach
do.
wall in tow, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. Check us out on YouTube. They're not going to show you our content, so hit that notification bell. We're also on Rumble, but make sure that you like, comment, share. Follow us on social media. We were talking about us being on Twitter, giving Brian Stelter the business. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Loudanddrunk.com. That is our home
It's
base.
our home base.
Catch up on the podcast there, although we do embed the YouTube videos there, so maybe we might have to change that.
Well, we also do the Spotify,
We do the Spotify
hours
as well.
later than it's supposed to be up.
Everything Loud and Drunk, bookmark that website.
Yeah, please.
Hashtag get Dan paid. Hashtag vote Dan.
I like this vote Dan thing.
I like the vote Dan thing
Yeah.
too. I'm about that.
The
Can I be your-
cronyism
can I be
that
your
we have
running
in this
mate?
state.
What's that?
Can I be your running
Oh,
mate?
absolutely. This is
Yeah.
going to be a libertarian ticket, buddy.
This is how we get things done, son.
Ba-boom!
So, for Justin, Moses, your name was Hardy Ho Ballwanger?
Harvey Ball.
Wow. You should just go with that.
I want to go. I want to go with that. Let's go with that. It's not.
I love, like, I'm going to create a character in, like, World of Warcraft again, just to be Bullwing.
It's not. Yeah, Paul Wanger. It's no. You're right, Dan.
Wallbanger.
It's not Harvey Wallbanger.
It's Harold Wallbanger.
Well, maybe you should have said Harold.
No,
Harold is my
Wallbanger?
father's name.
Harold. Honestly, that's the funnier joke.
We love you guys.
Yeah.
I'm Dan, and until next time, build the damn beach wall.
Yeah, beach walls.
Hashtag beach walls.